Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. This is Mark Hyde.
And Chris Fuller.
And on today's episode of Real Talk Christian, we're going to continue with the Focus series, but talking specifically about churches. Should we reinvent the wheel to match the culture around us and impact the culture? Fuller, you ready?
Let's ride. Drive the bus, drive the bus, drive the bus. Now stop. Now back it up. Now back it up. Now back it up. Oh.
What are we doing right now?
You said reinvent the wheel. I'm thinking of driving.
Dude, no. All I picture when you're doing that is the clip from Hitch where Will Smith was teaching how Kevin James how to dance.
Right.
And he was like, we don't need no pizza. They got food here. Just keep it in the box.
Toss the box.
Keep it in the box.
Right here.
Keep it in the box. Right here. This is the happy spot. This is the sweet spot.
Oh, now this is my jam.
But what's up, Fuller? Welcome
up,
back,
buddy?
dude. We are getting, oh, goodness. We have been crushing it, burning the candles at both ends with RTC.
Man, trying to, anyways,
We've had some good interviews. We've had some good conversations. We've had some good reviews left for us. It is a happy day in RTC land.
In the words of what's his name, Tim Allen, he goes,
to the Toolman Taylor from Home Improvement.
Yes,
I know that show. I know that show. Well, dude, last episode, we did something a little different where I'm like, you know what? Let's let the people get to know us a little bit.
We can't even call it banter anymore.
We can't call it banter.
We got to come up with something else for it now.
I don't know. But last episode, we had the conversation of focus regarding the kingdom and how we should live in this world versus being kingdom-minded versus getting our minds off into different routes. And we were like, you know, this conversation, let's just tack it on to that other episode where it's like we got to focus in on doing what we're supposed to be doing. Got to refocus.
You know how you have sermon series? Well, this is a podcast series called Focus.
Accidental. But since it's part of the series, we figured, hey, why not ask another fun question? Maybe two, based on how much time we have.
The fun focus questions.
The fun focus question. So I have an app that is called Make Talk. This is designed for people who suck at coming up with conversations to have at dinner at a first date, I think is what it's really for. And this is not a first date, but
it's our
easy
80th something date.
It's our easy way to have just here's something fun to talk about rather than just, hey, how you doing, man? You've had a good week? Yeah, I've had a good week. You've had a good week? Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Finals. Sorry.
Oh, goodness. But all right, dude. So to get today's conversation going, this is in the short and sweet category. This is not personal. This are deep and intimate. This is just short and sweet.
Okay.
What do most people think about you that is absolutely not true?
That I have an extrovert personality. I'm a book reader. I'm an introvert.
Well,
I recharge by being by myself.
But when you're out in public, you're like the party, bro.
I like quiet now. Quiet still.
So when you were high school, college age, 21, 22, back when you were like legit the party life.
Yeah.
Were you still an introvert back then?
I like being by myself. I still do. I enjoy being by myself. So that's the thing that people get wrong about me. It's absolutely not true.
If someone would have asked me, I would have said you're more on the extroverted side. Not full-fledged extrovert. Like you're not.
Yeah,
I don't know. You're not the Enneagram 7.
What I witchcraft
and wizardry. We'll talk about that in a later episode.
I would call if I was going to quantify it specifically, I came up with this term. It's an introvert with extrovert tendencies.
That's fair. That's really fair.
I can deal with some with the public and for a couple hours, and then after that, it's like, all right, I'm done. I'm ready to go home. Like I don't want to be around people. And then I get home and it's like, all right, let me play, read a book or play a movie or whatever. But yeah, let me get into my studies. Let me get into my lectures or something like that.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So sorry for all you people who
I did not know that.
So,
see, look at that. That's something that I didn't even know. I would have got that wrong.
What about you, my friend?
Oh, I don't know, man. Like a couple popped my head right away. One is I'm not as big of a Notre Dame fan as what people think I am.
What?
Because, like, I had a stage persona at church that literally I was a bigger Notre Dame fan than the Pope.
Well, yeah, because you played it off that way.
I played it off that way. But now, am I a big? I'm a hometown guy. So if I ever leave South Bend, I'll bring Notre Dame with me. But it's more of a hometown. It's a hometown thing. So I mean, I have Notre Dame stuff. I bought Beth and like when she even bought the girls some. I bought Beth tons of Notre Dame merch. I'm like, if you're living in South Bend, this is just who we are. South Bend is Notre Dame.
We're crazy Notre Dame people.
So if people ask, they'll ask me questions, and I'm like, I know their numbers, but I don't know any of their names besides Ian Book, our quarterback.
Well, he's not a quarterback anymore.
No, he's done. Or Brian Kelly. But am I a big Notre Dame fan? Well, yeah, of course. I enjoy watching Notre Dame. I like because the Jets fly over my house every home game. And,
well, yeah.
And I'll put the game on. But I'm also one where, you know, if my kids don't want to watch it, I'll literally put my AirPods on, put my phone in a different room, and listen to the Notre Dame game while I'm cleaning the house. Like, I don't have to watch it.
No, see, what I do is my kids watch and control the TV all the time. All I ask for is a few weeks out of the year and a couple hours a week.
But see, but here's the deal. But you enjoy watching Notre Dame too.
I
love watching Notre Dame, but I'm not as diehard Notre Dame fan as people think I am.
Yeah, I'm a diehard Notre Dame fan. So
are you?
I'm diehard.
And now, so me and my buddy Devin,
here we go.
I'm a big Northwestern guy.
I knew you were going to say it.
He's Nebraska, so we were trying to have a tradition where every year we went to the game, and COVID shut that down.
Yeah, you know, it's because it's not from God.
2 years ago, we went to Chicago. Last year, do you remember this turnaround? We drove down Saturday morning, got to Lincoln.
Came back Sunday night.
No. We came back the same day.
Was it?
Yeah, because we drove all the way through, got a hotel, got back to South Bend because I had youth group that night. So I got back in town by 3 p.m. So, yeah. But anyway, I'm not as big a Notre Dame one. The other one that I thought people would find interesting is I suck at,
saying sixth?
I can't talk. No. What's impromptu? Like impromptu speeches or things like that? I'm terrible. Like I'm absolutely terrible.
You don't know how to come up with things like off the top of your head.
I mean, as we're having a conversation, I can. But if someone just says, "Hey, do this," I'd be like, "Oh, I don't know." Like so when I would preach my sermons, people would never know it, but I would write every single. We talked about. I write every single word out. I could hand you my outline. You can follow along.
You could go preach the sermon.
but literally, you can't because I write it in my voice. So I'm not good at that. Yeah. I never have been.
Interesting.
Yep.
I am okay with impromptu, except for when I'm nervous.
When is that, Mr. Introvert?
If I was up on stage in front of church, I'd be nervous. Because I'd be afraid.
But if you're just chatting, or if you're just like, hey, give me a quick little something on this, you can just go.
Right. Yeah. I'm not afraid of people. I'm afraid of saying something wrong.
That's fair, though. But that's fair. You know,
I don't want to speak something that's unbiblical. That's my fear.
That's fair, though. That is fair. Well, hey, there's two things that you did not know about me and Fuller that, hey, guess what? Now you know. Now you know. Well, hey, bro, are you drinking any coffee tonight?
Let's get into the coffee talk.
Coffee talk. We need a jingle. Someone wants to
coffee talk.
If someone in RTC land wants to send us a little coffee talk jingle, that'd be dope. Like if someone could make a coffee talk jingle and it not be terrible,
we would so use it
if it's good.
It doesn't even.
No.
If it's good,
it can't be pathetic.
You have to make it like it can't just be like vocals. You got to have something in there.
But seriously,
although the fun facts with Fuller, I mean, it's just vocals. So
that's true. But hey, if you guys have something fun for coffee time,
that it doesn't have to necessarily be good. It just needs to be fun.
Fun and high quality.
Yeah.
But yeah, so coffee jingle. Anywho, so coffee time. What are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking the bubbly.
Nothing.
The bubbly.
Dude, that's some sweet branding, though, for that watermelon bubbly.
I love.
Have you finished it yet?
No.
Can I have a sip? It's not really COVID approved. I never had this one.
No, it's legit. I told you I have another can in your fridge.
I don't want the whole thing.
It's got.
That's different because I have LaCroix watermelon. That's less fizzy. That's good.
It's the good stuff.
That's good.
The Aha from Aldi though.
Ooh, Aha.
It's the watermelon lime. No,
you can get that at Kroger, I think, too, though.
I don't know. Right? I just always buy from Aldi. But anyways, no, I'm not drinking coffee. I'm drinking the bubbly watermelon. But Mark,
I'm drinking coffee tonight. So, I guess today, whenever you're listening, I don't know. I am actually drinking a local brew. Not this stuff. This is our RTC coffee if you want some.
That's a local
Hit us up. But this is from a coffee shop in Elkhart and Goshen, the Electric Brew, which if you know our friend Joel DeMott, Joel DeMott is
Dudes and
a
Dads.
huge Electric Brew fan.
In the words of Trump, he's huge.
He's huge. But I am drinking their Rwandan blend because I was in the coffee shop and I saw, I'm waiting in line, and I just see all these coffees and it's whatever. And I saw Rwandan. I'm like, I didn't even know there was a Rwandan coffee. So without hesitation, I'm like, I want this, please.
So one thing we really need to discuss with Joe Frericks, since he's moving to Peru here in about a month.
That was a segue.
Well, here's why. Is that he needs to send us up some green coffee beans straight from Peru. He can be our direct trade. Well, I'll pay for the shipping. Joe.
Is that smuggling?
No.
Is that illegal?
How is it any different than they already
customs?
ship up the but they already ship up the coffee.
But don't they have to get stuff approved from customs if it's
probably
food?
I don't know. I'm just saying, Joe, work your magic.
I mean, Joe, if you got 103% of your support raise, use that other 3% to send us some coffee. That's what I'm hearing.
I would send you the money to have you send us the coffee. I don't care. I want
that would be cool.
I want some of that direct trade.
But yeah, so I'm drinking this Rwandan blend, which we talked about this.
Yeah.
All the African roasts have
they're very earthy tones.
They're not fresh and bright. They're more of
they're dark
and subtle
and a bitter, almost like a bitter, but a good bitter.
Because they're darker. You're right.
So it's a very earthy, not like dirt, but not like eating beets.
But it doesn't have a South African or the
there's
Caribbean.
It's not bright.
It doesn't have a sharp taste.
It's not floral or fruity,
but it's smooth. It's smooth. So smooth.
Well,
so smooth.
It's a little stale, but
it's like.
That's because you don't.
This is gonna sound bougie. Oh, I bought this and then we didn't get to drink it because it's probably about a month old in terms of it's probably about maybe 4 to 6 weeks. Which that sounds really bougie when you're like 4 to 6 weeks.
28 days it starts going stale after, and that's if you have it sealed really good.
And I just had it sealed in the bag. So, but still, it's smooth. It's a good hit. It's one of those hits that I don't want in the morning, but like around 3 o'clock. This is one of my hits.
It's the pick me up, midday pick me up.
Yeah, when you want something just smooth and steady, not like bright.
So, anyways, Mark, do we have any reviews today?
We do.
All right.
This review is from Andy Donato. So far, this is one of my favorite reviews.
Andy Donato.
This is one of my favorite ones.
Right,
he's from Michigan, which is super cool, he said. So he says that my son wanted a solid Christian podcast centered on interesting conversation and that was also theologically sound. I have only listened to a few episodes so far, but I have found them very helpful and in line with Scripture. Thank you for this ministry and giving me a Christian podcast that I feel comfortable recommending to my son.
When
made it and we're done recording. I mean, we're not having no more episodes. That's it.
When you recommend us to your kids, I feel honored. I feel honored.
Well, that's just it, man. That's it. I feel like this is one of the best reviews because he's like, I want to send this to my son. So that's good. Andy Donato, Desam, whatever. Is it Donato?
Andy from Michigan.
Andy from Michigan. That's what it says. Dude, hit us up. Email us with your contact info, and we'll send both you and your son a mini swag bag with stickers and buttons, which we need to order more buttons, I think.
Stickers
and buttons.
And yeah.
Who knows?
And a business card.
And well, that's true because,
we always send a business.
We got, well, sometimes I forget. Sometimes I do forget. I'm sorry.
Shame on you.
I'll send you my personal business card for my. No, I'm kidding.
No, we don't.
But anywho, so
anyways, let's get
Andy from Michigan. All you other people who have left us reviews, thank you. Again, you can only leave it on Apple iTunes, but we know we have a big Spotify listening crowd.
And you can always get a hold of us on our Facebook page or through email. So.
Yep, that's it. So we're 14 minutes in, so I guess it's time to start the conversation. But here's the deal: we're gonna have an interesting, different level of conversation tonight.
But it's not going to be overwhelmingly long, I don't think. I mean, it could be, I guess.
We're going to find out. I mean, who knows?
We are pretty bad at it. I'm just going to kick back here.
We have no show notes for this episode.
The show notes are 4 bullet points that are like 5 words.
Because this is going to be a conversation.
That's it.
So something that we talked about, I mean, this is a conversation that we've actually had on our podcast list for over a year.
This one's recommended by Paul
right?
Lindgren.
This is a Paul Lindgren one.
The friend of the show.
Asking the question of, is church reinventing the wheel? Should the church reinvent the wheel? What does that even mean? And then here's the question that I've been thinking about is, it's not the fact of, does church need to reinvent the wheel, but has the church in the past reinvented the wheel and we need to fix it? I think is the biggest question.
All right.
This is something that I've thought about in terms of, here's ways that the church has reinvented the wheel when it comes to the church and discipleship and following Jesus and all these different things. Because when you look at the New Testament, how do you see the church worshiping? Specifically in Acts 2:42, you see them. They're gathering together. They're praying. They're studying the apostles' teachings. They're breaking of bread. They're having communion. They're having all things in common. They're living life together, and God's adding to their number daily.
Right.
And what are they doing?
By the thousands.
By thousands. I mean, it's just absolutely unreal. The explosive growth of the gospel is absolutely nothing short of a miracle of what happened, especially in the midst of all the persecution. But what was the church known for way back in the day? We have letters from I think it was a Roman governor where it's like, I know like Christians are supposed to be bad, but they're bringing in orphans. They're
Tysidius.
Is it Tysidius? They're bringing in kids and they're raising them as their own. Right. They're giving widows and orphans a place at the table. They're doing all these beautiful things, and even throughout all of church history, who started all of the major universities in America? It was Christians, and in light of training pastors for the ministry, Yale, Harvard. Princeton, actually Northwestern, I found out, was started by the Methodists to train Methodist preachers in here in the Midwest.
No wonder why it sucks. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, we're the Ivy League in the Big Ten. But you see the university in terms of we want to educate the mind of the people. Sunday school was started to teach impoverished kids how to read. Right. It was just to teach them how to read and how to be a person. Hospitals, that's what Catholic hospitals are the most popular hospitals around.
It was all about loving people.
It was all about reaching out and loving people.
Right.
But nowadays, when you see how the church operates, I kind of wrote down 4 different things that I see the church doing today. And I want to see, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And how we should respond to it? And what should we actually be doing as Christians when it comes to church and church life? So I got just 4 bullet points. That's all I got for tonight. Just the 4 bullet points of ways church try to reinvent the wheel. 1 is the church creates programs rather than foster relationships. We'll get into that in a bit. Another one is we create positions and titles instead of developing leaders.
Ooh.
Like we want to give the title away rather than just all people are pastors and leaders. Third one is we want to create worship experiences instead of gathering to worship. The fourth one is we create evangelism events instead of just sharing your faith everyday moments. So, when you see the church in today's culture, you see specifically with the first one where we create programs rather than just foster relationships. We see the student ministry, the kids ministry, the men's ministry, the women's ministry, the deacon ministry, the outreach team,
men's breakfast.
You see even the teams that are
lady nights.
They're designed to set the stage and do all these different things. Worship teams, other ones for our churches, we had like the student leadership team. VBS, we had one-on-one discipleship. We had the hostess team. We had the greeter ministry. We had all these different programs. And the question that I've always had is, do we create these programs because we feel like we just need to create programs? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
And does the church need them?
And that's a valid question.
And I think really COVID has proven that, no, they're not necessary. Because, I mean, we don't have a lot of those, like in our personal church. I guess I can only speak for our personal church.
Right.
But a lot of those teams went bye-bye for a long time. Months, like 6 months, they were just not there. And yet the church still functioned. So were they necessary for the church to function?
Well, did the church function because of Facebook? In terms of our live worship gatherings?
Like YouTube.
You know what I mean?
Okay, right. Yeah.
And that begs the question of what even is the purpose of gathering together as a church?
Right.
Like, do we have to do it this way? Can we do it different ways?
So I think it's important to not forsake the assembly of the brethren, right? So
that's scripture.
That's scriptural.
But
what if that's supposed
James?
to? Yes.
The book of James, I think.
So. James, 1 Peter, one of the two.
It's in the New Testament.
It's in the NT. You're going to look it up now.
Sure am.
Thank you. But what
Hebrews
that?
Hebrews 10:25. We weren't even close, guys.
Nope. We said New Testament. But what we say, we have all these things, but how is the church supposed to function? Like, what's the purpose of it?
Right.
Well, we see that we're not supposed to forsake the assembly.
Well, the purpose of the church is not it's a living organism. The people make up the church, because the church is what's the term of
what's the gathering of the church? I guess is what's the purpose of the gathering of the church?
It's to edify, to build up one another, and help us honestly worship God together, because the Bible talks about
it's to foster relationships.
It's togetherness of when one falls, the other can pick each other up. A cord of two can be easily broken, but a cord of three ain't gonna happen.
Is a father-son or a mother-daughter relationship, is that like a teacher-student relationship, or is that a relationship? Because they're being taught, right?
Right.
So I guess the way I've always looked at the edifying, the building up, the training, the equipping portion, I see it as a fostering of relationships. You said here, create programs rather than foster the relationships.
Yep.
I think I see it in the New Testament. I see it with my own children that's a fostering of the relationship rather than creating a program to equip.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my opinion of it is that nowadays a lot of churches create programs rather than foster the relationships. But
the question is why? Like, why are they creating these programs in the first place?
Right.
You know?
I think it's out of convenience. It's out of the Western Christian culture mindset, I guess, is where I would be at with it. If you're asking for my opinion.
Yeah, no, this is opinion. I mean, the whole dang episode is opinion time, man.
This is just a conversation.
Right. Like, this is full-fledged conversation.
Yeah. But I would say that it's probably because Western culture, Christianity, we are of the mindset of schedules, and don't mess with my schedule, and it's going to be from this time to this time. And after that, I'm going out to lunch. I'm going home to watch football or whatever I'm going to do.
In church is normally an afterthought. Like, it's not one of the main things.
It's a checkbox.
Yeah.
We've created a checkbox church. Ooh, I like that.
But you see, even with the Jews on, Shabbat, like, that was a whole day. So there's still intentionality behind it.
In the church, yes, but it was a whole day of what? Dedication to God and to loving others.
Yeah,
like you were supposed to.
You brought people in.
Always.
Yeah.
And even in the early church, we see, okay, well, they were still worshiping in synagogues on Sabbath, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were also getting together on the first day of the week, the Lord's Day. So it was not even like, okay, we're just going to do one day for 2 hours. It's like, no, we're going to do 2 days all day long.
Right.
Like, there was an intentional about growing the relationship and fostering those relationships. And who was it? Well, it was the church leaders. It was the Peter, James, the brother of Jesus, Paul, Barnabas. These are the guys that were like, hey, I'm going to live life with you, but I'm also equipping you while I'm living life. It's not like, hey, Mark, I'm going to preach a sermon to you in my program, and then you have a good week. I'll see you next Sunday.
Right.
Like, no, they lived life. They were intentional about, hey, it was just like Jesus, how he taught his disciples. They asked questions, he answered the questions. He also preached to the crowds, but he was a lot of the time answering the questions of the disciples. It was fostering of the relationship.
And where does that mindset come from? And I think it comes from consumer Christianity, consumerism.
I agree.
I got an article here. Sorry, I guess I do have a show note, but I have one article where it says 21 challenges facing the 21st century church by Brett McCracken. He's written four books. One is Hipster Jesus. Another one, is it called Uncomfortable? I mean, basically, it's like, how is the church supposed to love the neighbor and how we're not doing it well? But in this, he wrote down 21 challenges that today's church is facing. And honestly, dude, it's unreal. Like, one of them is biblical illiteracy.
It's so true.
One is just presence of connecting to God and with others. One is disembodied tendencies, where it says we increasingly live our lives across screens, apps, phones. Our relationships are digital and not physical. Compartmentalization, where we have, this is the church life, this is the work life, this is the whatever. Another one is boredom. People get bored easy. I won't read the whole one, but one of them, number 6, is the temptation to reinvent the wheel, which I think is very interesting.
We're going to put this in the it's already in the show notes. The link to this. So all you got to do, if you want to read the whole article, you can click on the link.
But this is the specific one I wanted to read because this one's stupid cool.
Right,
well, it's actually not cool. It's kind of sad when you think about it.
It's stupid cool, but sad.
So consumer Christians is one of the biggest challenges facing the 21st century church. And he says the ubiquity, I like that word, the ubiquity of consumerism in late capitalism has fully infiltrated the church to the extent that, quote unquote, church shopping and, quote unquote, what I get out of the sermon are things we say without even thinking about it. People go to Sunday services to get something. They choose a church that fits them and match their checklists and preferences, just as one would choose a new car or a new pair of jeans. But churches must challenge rather than cater to this mentality. Church is a place where members of a body come together for the purposes beyond themselves.
Right.
Sorry, I got a chill thinking beyond themselves. It's an invitation. Invitation? It's an invitation to join Christ in what he is already doing in the world, not an invitation for Christ to affirm our self-actualization.
That's some heavy stuff. That's good stuff, though.
So I like that he even put the fact of church is a place where members of a body come together for the purpose beyond themselves. And, in today's Christian world, obviously being a pastor at an institutionalized church, and I was a youth pastor who ran programs, and I'm a program guy. Like I'm the first to admit, and I'm not saying that this is a fault of mine, and this is something I've admitted before, is I love programs. Why? Because programs are clean. Programs have instructions. They have guidelines. They have parameters. It's not messy. Right. It can be messy inside of it, but, no, we have youth group from this time to this time. If it's this time and your parent's not here, just please get them here better next week because it's already 8:30. We ended an hour ago. Right. I just want to go home.
Right.
Or we have other programs to do all these different things, and we want to create all these programs, and then the problem is these programs, which personally are not a bad thing in and of themselves, they become idols because we can't kill the programs. So like one program that we did, and I wanted for intentionality's sake, was we created the student leadership team. Right. And the whole idea of this, again, it was a program. It was a program, but it taught teens how do I teach a sermon? How do I plan events for teenagers? I'm supposed to be the leader. How can I serve those in the student ministry? Right. So it was a program with parameters for intentionality of raising up leaders to go out into the world.
Yet it was still a program.
But it was still a program. But what was the purpose of that program? It was to foster relationships because it actually gave me a select few to intentionally pour into that I could check up in on. And there was actually a level of, this is what you signed up for, so I'm going to call you out on it if you're not doing it.
But what's the difference between that and discipleship?
There's not.
But why do we call it a program? Why do we make it into a program?
Honestly?
And not just use it as discipleship.
In one sense, it creates accountability for those inside of it. Because if there's just a program, this is all I have to do. Right. It gets people to show up.
Right. But do you think there was not a sense of responsibility amongst the disciples in Jesus, or against Timothy and Titus to Paul, or against Barnabas to John Mark? You don't think there was accountability there?
Oh, 100% there was accountability.
And it wasn't a program. It was just a mentor type person being a mentor. Right. I'm just mentoring you. Hey, we're going to go do this. Mm-hmm. Come on, let's go along. Let's do this.
But I think in one sense, could programs cause people to step up to the plate too? Like, because we had a one-on-one discipleship program. We didn't advertise it.
Well, see, this is
what we did, where we connected people together.
This is where you and I probably differ a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that's, I believe there's gifts that are given and there's callings that are to be had given by God. And not everyone is called for the same thing. Mm-hmm. And the intention of the heart has to be seen by the teacher, right? The mentor is supposed to, I think of Jesus, right? You talk about the most raggedy bunch of guys that he could get. I mean, you got a tax collector, a couple fishermen. I mean, think about the guys who he went and chose, but he knew, obviously he was Jesus.
He had a zealot.
Right, so he knew their heart before he knew them. Mm-hmm. Now, see, we're in a different area here, so we're talking SLT. I'll just use that since that's what we're
that's what I brought up,
So you already know these kids. They're in your youth group, so you can kind of see where they're at. Mm-hmm. And then you can choose them. Now, if you say, hey, I'm looking for volunteers for the SLT.
No, I mean, I had to sign up. There was an application, and it was long. It was intentionally long.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, now it's a job.
Right.
It's not a calling. It's a job. Mm. And that's why I said you and I see a little bit differently on that, and that's okay.
But this is one reason that made me nervous about, and why a lot of youth pastors who even were at mega churches killed their SLT programs, because it goes to the second bullet point of now we just gave someone a title,
right?
Not just develop leaders to go out and do what you're supposed to do.
And here's the thing with titles, okay? This is again, there's a calling, mm-hmm. There's a humbleness that should go along. I think of Scott.
Okay.
Scott does not hold his pastoralship title over people's head. Like, I'm a pastor. I'm better than you because I'm a pastor.
No.
He's like he's Paul. I'm the chief of sinners. Like, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, he is very much.
Now, he does have a title and it deserves respect, but he doesn't flaunt the title. No. So when you're doing an application versus a calling, you don't know if there's the humbleness, because there's a big part when you're in a leadership position that there should be a humbleness with it.
Because what's the leader supposed to do? They're supposed to be the servant,
right?
A servant leader,
right? And if you look at some qualifications and callings and the gifts of the Spirit and stuff like that, humbleness is a big thing in there.
You can go back to a few episodes and hear me sing the Fruit of the Spirit song.
Yeah, I forget how many episodes ago it was.
Like 2 or 3.
It was more than that.
I don't know, but anyway,
like
keep
4 or
going.
5.
Keep going.
Anyway,
So humility is a big one.
So I think humility and humbleness and a calling, those are all important things. A calling, and what I mean by calling is that's a gift, right? We don't all have the same gifts. This is why we're a corporate body. Right. This is why we need each other.
But the Apostle Paul does say, he who seeks to be an elder seeks after a good thing.
Seeks after a good thing doesn't mean he necessarily gets that.
Right.
Because there are some who are gifted, right? Because I can seek after an eldership, but if I'm going to be like, well, I'm pretty prideful, would the church want me as an elder, even though I'm seeking after it? No, because I'm prideful. Like, that's not the example that needs to be
And there's
set.
some guys that are better. I mean, a lot of guys in our small group, like, if you ask them to teach, they would quiver. But if you ask them to do anything with their hands,
oh, they're right on it.
They'll build you the Taj Mahal, man.
Right, exactly.
Nathan Hornig, I want a Taj Mahal.
Hey, Axelberg, I'd like a swimming pool.
Cheers.
He's going to bring the digger out for us. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, we all have different gifts, and I believe there's special callings. And just because you have a gift, you should use your gift.
Right.
But it doesn't mean you're necessarily right for the position that you may want. It may be a different position God has in mind for you. And this is where we go back to our little bit of disagreement
with God's will.
With God's will. So, and I believe in a sovereign God. And not that you don't. I'm not trying to imply that.
No, I do. But no, you could.
But the sovereignty of God and how holy he is and how everything that happens is because of his will. It's his perfect will why everything happens. And we have to train our ears to listen to him for his will. And then and wait for his leading, because he's going to know where he wants us to go. So
yeah, I like it. No, so let's keep moving on with this then. So, this is something that, going back to that list of the 21 challenges facing the 21st century church, you read boredom, we read consumerism, we read, here's another one is, the idol of autonomy is one, where they said each church wants to be their own church and create their own denominations, which is a big one. The struggle for balance when it comes to big sermons, little sermons, big worship set, little worship set. There's an aversion to commitment because I don't want to join your church because what happens if something bigger comes down the road?
Church hoppers.
There's even podcasts like, why do I need to listen to Scott when I can get Andy Stanley whenever I want? So I don't need to go to church.
I can listen to Jeff Durbin all day long.
Exactly. You could do whatever you want to do. But so all of these different problems that face the 21st century church, some churches go, we will do anything that we can do besides sin to reach the lost for Jesus. So, like, there's some churches that are huge that put
production
literally 7 figures into their production every single year, so they can reach the lost. And I'm not saying anything wrong because I know Life Church down in Oklahoma City with Craig Rochelle, because they have it's going to sound bad, because they have so much money, they've created the YouVersion Bible app and they give it all away for free. All their curriculum they give away for free. They stream their sermons, and they actually get people from the 1030 or 1040 window who have internet who secretly watch their online services because they can't do anything open public, which I think is still pretty cool and pretty fascinating. But should we as church lean into the culture when it comes to, okay, so we've created these massive worship experiences to entertain, to make sure it's not boring, to make sure it's witty, to make sure it's creative, all these different things. Did the church reinvent the wheel, and do we need to go back? Or, I think the Bible calls, I think Christians should be the most creative people on the planet because we serve the Creator. And you even see throughout all the Old Testament with the beauty of art that God even had for his own holy temple. And I'm a creative. Like, I create sermon graphics and all the different things for our church even too. But what's the main thing when it comes to worship gathering experiences? We talked about this on another podcast before,
Again, as far as the creative side, creativity is a good thing. There's a lot of the good things that are given from God, but there's also a lot of bad. Like, somebody was creative and created the atomic bomb. Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
Not good.
I mean, somebody was creative and created the drug cocaine. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? You know what I mean? So creativity, just saying creativity, that's good because the Creator is, he's creative. Yes and no.
Well, I mean, in terms of like video and like pictures and
right,
and worship, like churches will spend millions on their worship environments.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
So I think it gets back to what is your focus? Right. This is the focus series. What's your focus? Is your focus on loving the Lord your God, your heart with all your mind, soul, strength, and loving others as yourself, loving others as Christ loves them? Or is it how we want to love and how we want to do this and how we want to do that? And it's not about what God wants, and it's not about what they need, because I can water down the gospel, because that'll draw more people in, and people will be like, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus. I'll become a Christian because it's a watered down gospel. But is that what they need? Is that what God wants? Are we putting so much focus in? Again, it's a balance, right? It's just like anything. Too much of anything. We talked about this last podcast. Too much focus on anything, you can make it an idol. Is too much focus on the production becoming an idol? Or is it not? I mean, it's hard,
a valid question.
It's hard to say this is black and white. It's very hard for me to say it's black and white because we don't know the hearts of those who are doing this, right? But I would caution those, if I don't even know if probably nobody's listening that's on the bigger end that we're talking about here.
That'd be cool.
But if they were, that's awesome. But I would caution them and say, what is your focus? Is your focus on reaching the lost because you want to be the ambassador and show them Christ? Or is it because you want to draw people in because you want the numbers?
So, and now, I mean, even people on the conservative spectrum, I mean, again, going back to recovering fundamentalists, I listen to it a lot. They're talking about pastors who, even in the independent fundamental world, will walk in, look at the church numbers, and boost it just because it makes them feel better. So so there's not one side that does it better or worse than the other. It's just the light, sounds, and haze tends to get more of the heat for that than the conservative churches.
And again, I'm not.
That goes back to the why behind the what.
I personally do not like it. I don't like all the lights and haze, but you do. And I think if it's done with the correct heart, it can be used by God. I'm not stupid enough to put God in a box, but I think you have to be careful, and you have to be careful even with this. I'm not gonna allow a guitar in here because voices only a cappella music only, and no other.
Is that like a reverse idol, which is still an idol?
Right, exactly. It can be like it's all about the heart. What's the heart behind it? Is it you're doing this because you're doing it for God? Is it doing it because you're putting extra laws? I mean, I think about the Judaizers and even the circumcision party in the New Testament church. In the early church, there was a party called the circumcision party, where they believed that Gentiles could become Christians, but they had to convert basically to Judaism. They had to be circumcised. And this is what the whole Jerusalem Council was about, where Paul brings Titus and's like, here's Titus. Are you telling me he's not filled with the Holy Spirit? The Holy Spirit is what affirms who is saved and who is not saved. This is back in the church, early church. And it's like, they're like, well, we can't say he's not, we can't say he's not, but abstain from these. James goes, well, abstain from these things because it'll cause your brother to stumble. And again, we go back, we don't want to be a stumbling block. We want to appeal to the weaker brother, that whole argument that was going on in the early church. And so we got to look at that too. Like, is it a legalistic thing?
Right. Because there's even the Pharisees where Jesus like, hey, yeah, you're giving 10%. You're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. But last time I checked, you haven't shown any love or grace or humility or kindness or forgiveness.
Or you're praying out in the public because you want eyes on you, and you're doing these things that look righteous, but it's not really.
So a lot of what the church does is, so you're saying, just to make sure that I understand, is it's not so much what the church is doing, so long as what is the heart you're trying to, like, what's the heart behind it? What's the goal that you're trying to do?
I mean, yes and no. There is, obviously there's things that the Bible speaks out against that I'm not going to go to the red light district and hop in bed with somebody and break my vow
about Jesus.
Yeah, break my vow to my wife and break my vow to God to tell them about Jesus. Like, that's, you don't
you don't do that.
Not everything is acceptable. So you have to be careful in what you do. You don't want to sin in the process of the call to win souls. First of all, we don't win souls. It's not up to us.
Right.
And we talked about that, kind of touched about it with the Calvinist and Arminius conversation we had a few podcasts ago. I think we have to be careful in all things, and we have to check our heart. We should be checking our heart daily. All these leaders, anything we do, we should check our heart. What's the heart behind it? Is it for self-gratification? Like, am I doing this because, hey, I want to look good? Or am I doing it because, hey, I really love people? Or am I doing it because I love God? Or, what's the heart behind it? We don't want to be the empty, whitewashed tomb. We don't want to be that. We want to be filled with the Spirit. We want to have that connection. We want to do things in the right heart and out of love for God and love for others. And I think that has to be the focus, since this is the focus here.
It's the focus, right.
That has to be the focus of everything that we do. Everything we do should be focused on God and what he says and what he wants, not what we want.
Something that I personally struggle with, right now it's not a personal struggle because I have a church family that I love, and that we gather together and we worship together, and we're trying to impact our world one life for Christ at a time.
Right.
But I think of like a church I went to in college where, I served there. The people were great. Was the worship great? Actually, the guy who led worship was, he was a young guy and he could sing. He was an awesome dude. So our music actually wasn't terrible. And the pastor was a phenomenal guy. It was just a backwoods church of 40 people because it was in a backwood town. Like it was just, your church can only grow to your kingdom impact anyways. But you see some church, or you hear of other people where it's like, look, I'm trying, but the pastor just can't preach for beans, or not the fact that there's nothing here for my kids, but my kids are fighting me to go to church, and they think this is all church is, and they're starting to hate the church, and like why this, why that, right. And parents have this struggle of, okay, I don't want to be a consumer and go, okay, what can serve my needs the best,
right?
But at the same token, if we're supposed to be gathering together as a community to help do this thing together, I need to find a community of people with the same values and with the same heartbeat and want to do something together and find a community in that, which is hard to do if a church, like, if someone walks in, like they have kids, like, oh, well, I want other people with young families with kids to be here. And the pastor goes, me too. So can you stay so we can try to get this thing going? I don't know.
Well, again, it goes back to two things. It goes back to what's the will of God. Have you prayed about it? What's God leading you to, right? Have you really listened? Have you really prayed? I don't think anything should be done in haste. Really search God and his will. And then what's your motivation? Those are the two things I always come back to. What's your motivation? What's your heart motivation? Do you want to go to church for kids so you can have your kids can have friends at church, even though things, whatever, you may not disagree with or you may agree with? Who knows?
Right.
Or you going because, hey, like this is where God's calling me to. I want to love on these people. The church is messy. The church has always been messy.
Mm-hmm. First Corinthians showed us that.
Galatians.
All of them.
Yeah. If you're going to a church because you don't think it's going to be messy, and as soon as it gets messy, you bail, there's a problem. There's a problem. Your heart and your motivation wasn't right. Take a step back. Pray. Seek God's face. Wait. My personal opinion is wait for an answer. Don't make a move in a church without a clear direction. Otherwise, you could walk away from a church and you could just be wandering, and now you're by yourself, and now you're prime bait for Satan. When you're not plugged in and surrounded by brothers to help keep you accountable, or sisters, now you're open to be misled, to start maybe getting some false doctrine in there, and it's not going to be big stuff. Usually Satan doesn't work in big things. Look at what he did in the garden. It was just some slight twist. Did God really say that? That's all he did. He asked, did God really say that? Are you sure? And that, look what happened now.
and that's what's hard is, when times get rough, what do people in the church usually do? Is they usually pull away.
Well, that's human nature. Human nature is to, things aren't going the way I thought they would. I'm either mad, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm embarrassed. There's a multitude of things that can happen to go, I'm going to pull away from the church, or I'm going to pull away from God because I don't like this and I'm uncomfortable. Well,
and I get that because I found myself in that spot too,
God didn't come. I love this. I love this line from The Chosen. I'm a huge Chosen fan. Dallas Jenkins, if you're watching, I love you, buddy. There's a line where the guy who's playing the character of Jesus, the Pharisees are coming up and they're questioning him. He's eating in Matthew's house, and he's like, I didn't come to save the well. He goes, the doctor didn't come to save the well. He comes to heal the sick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is. Like that, if you realize that even though we've been saved, we're not saved by us. It's all through him. Without him, we're still sick.
Mm.
We walk away from him and his body, we're sick again. Like there's a sickness. And it's not, I'm not saying like, okay, you're going to go do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I am saying you get into dangerous ground.
Mm.
When you're not plugged in, you get into dangerous ground. Now, plugged in looks differently for people, especially during this time of COVID. I mean, there's a lot of high-risk people, and I'm not saying I'm not saying stuff can't be utilized and have good intentions behind it, because there definitely is. The live stream stuff has been very useful during this time of COVID.
It's useful, but I mean, even, Scott has said it and Soche has said it, like, this is not the ideal.
It's not, but it's
cool.
Well,
it's awesome. We're blessed by it.
That's the thing. It's all right. You have to recognize, do this for as long as you need to do it. But as soon as you don't need to do it, get your butt back in church. Like, that's the thing. And don't get comfortable with it, because this shouldn't be the norm. We keep hearing, well, this is the new normal. This is the new normal. Well, it shouldn't be. But I also I feel for the people that are high risk. I feel for the people with young families who they're not living in fear, but they're being smart and trying to be good stewards of what God has given them. I know for me, for a long time it was a toss up. Like, do I expose my family to something that doesn't need to be exposed for the sake of just going to church, to be there? When I was still connecting with you, I was still connecting with brothers and sisters inside of our church. My tribe I was still connecting with. I may not have been going and hearing a sermon live. I was still hearing the sermon. I was still talking to Scott. I was still talking to Sochi. I was still talking. I was still talking. I was connected. I just wasn't there.
But you were, to the best of your ability.
Yeah. So there's a fine line to say, oh, we shouldn't use live stream. People should get their butts back in church right now, even though there's a pandemic. Don't live in fear. It's a lot more complicated than that. It's not black and white. It's not that way for everybody's situation. Do you put your life at risk to hear a Sunday sermon, or do you plug in different ways? Do you plug in through Zoom calls, through FaceTime, through Marco Polo, through phone calls? I mean, there's lots of ways to plug in this digital age. And
a lot of it, from what I'm hearing you say, goes back to that whole consumerism aspect, where a lot of people want to go to church just to
go to
check
church.
The box of, you know what, man, I'm not, life is hard. I'm not doing so great. I know I need to get back into church. You need Jesus.
Right. Church ain't gonna save you. Jesus will.
Right. Exactly.
But you still want the protection of the brethren.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's a balancing act. It's getting back to what we talked about last week, balancing the world, the consumerism, and balancing the kingdom.
Yeah, and I think that's the focus that goes back to it. Even the last thing, because we've already talked about create programs instead of fostering relationships, create position and titles instead of just developing, just general leadership. Oh, I just whacked my microphone. I'm sorry. Create worship experiences instead of gathering to worship, and then create evangelism events instead of sharing your faith moments. And that last one goes right along with it. The fact of, you don't need to have today's outreach day, so we're going to go share Jesus with people because this is the one day we do it. All the other days, you can just stay home, do your thing. When you're working at work, don't let nobody know you're a Christian. Don't do anything about it. We're called to share our faith, and I'm not going to toot my own horn. I'm just going to share a personal story. I actually I had an interview with the city to work in their marketing department to help their parks and venue. Ended up not getting the gig. It's all right. But, I actually was able to share my faith about 3 or 4 different times in that interview.
Right.
Now, part of it was because of they were asking about experience, all these different things, and my context is church world, because what have I done? I've been a youth pastor, a creative pastor, an associate pastor, all these different things. But I was able to say, you know what, because they asked me why do you want to do this? And I said, well, at the end of the day, everyone has, I believe that everyone has value and worth and equal dignity and equal rights because everyone's made in God's image. I was able to actually talk about God and Jesus a couple times in the interview, not because I was trying to Like, I didn't use that as a platform to soapbox my faith.
Right.
But that's who I am. Like, I can't separate it from not. And that's why, yeah, I mean, go back to the tattoo conversation. This is one reason why I have my tattoo, is it's a mark that I'm a Christian. Not to say that I'm a follower of Jesus. Or the fact of, I just do things differently. I talk about God. You want to have this conversation. Why did you do that? Well, I follow Jesus and he tells me to.
Right.
It's the same thing we talked about with Joe and Kimberly. Why are you going to Peru? Because we want to tell people about Jesus.
Right.
Hey, Tibbs, why are you writing this type of music? Because I want to share God's love through music.
Right.
Why are you doing all these different things? Paul, why'd you share your terrible story, bro?
Why did you go to the COVID unit? Because you wanted to love on people.
You wanted to
help them with
exactly.
The
That's what you hear of nurses, and you hear of Beth with her foster kids, and all these different people we've interviewed
of the RTC family,
and you guys listening as well. Where's the fact of why are you doing what you're doing? Well, because I love Jesus and I want to share God's love with people. You know, evangelism isn't that hard when you just share your story. It's not a walk around with chick tracks on a very specific day and time and go to the mall and just sit down with people awkwardly and talk with them.
I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that if that's what people want to do, but the church wants to make evangelism moments and evangelism programs and evangelism events rather than, I'm all for outreach events. Like, hey, let's get together to go out into our community and do stuff for the community.
Well,
I'm all on board for that.
It's this simple, all right? If you're talking to somebody, it could be so simple. I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with a guy, and he asked me what my thoughts were about politics.
Oh, boy.
And all I did was tell him, hey, look, as a Christian, I'm called to pray for my leaders. He didn't know I was a Christian, but I said, I mean, we don't talk much. It was a guy at work, and I ran into him, and I was like, we don't, I'm not supposed to hate. I'm supposed to love. I said, I'm going to pray for my leaders. I said, God has placed him in the office for his purposes, and I support God. I said, so I'm going to pray that whatever God's will is, it be done. And that's where I left it. He was like, kind of like taken back. And I was like, it was just that easy. Share your faith that way. Just, this is what my perspective is as a Christian.
You didn't slam it down anybody's throat. Nope. You had the opportunity, so you took it.
Right, exactly. And that's what, Mark, I think you're talking about is you don't have to go like trying to create opportunity. Just be open and willing when the opportunity arises to discuss your faith, talk about your faith, share your faith. And I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, well, you see that the Apostle Paul when he was before.
Well, he went to Athens before he went to Ephesus.
Right, and they said, and they gave him the opportunity. Right. And he's like, hey, well, you see that too? Let me tell you about him real quick. Right. But I was thinking before, not Herod. Who was the king that he appeared before? King Agrippa.
Yeah, Agrippa.
And he was able to give a defense.
Right.
And that's what, going back to, we talked about this last episode, back in 1 Peter, 2 Peter. I'm trying to remember the verse. But basically the idea of always be prepared to give a defense for your faith for the hope that you have. I mean, as Christians, there's going to be times where people call upon, what hope do you have in Jesus? And you're able to give that answer, because it always says, always be prepared.
1 Peter 3:15.
1 Peter 3:15, it says, always be prepared to give account for the hope that you have.
In your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this in gentleness and in respect. So
that's all I got, man. So when it comes to focusing on, the Dana Church trying to reinvent the wheel, I think in some contexts we do need to invade those spaces to reach those spaces, and we need to love and we need to reach out. We need to do certain things. But if we create these false idols of, well, we have to have this board, we have to have this program, we've always had this program, because why? Well, because it's just what we do. Versus, no, what should we be doing when it comes to regards to Christianity?
My final thoughts are similar to yours a little bit. I think first you should focus on God and his ways in your spare time, in your quiet time. And then after that, as far as loving others, you don't have to force situations. You just have to be ready for situations. For anybody who asks, be ready to give an account, give your story and how you came to know Christ. Share share the gospel that way. You don't have to share, well, so this verse says this, this verse says this, because that's not what people are really. I mean, yes, they'll listen to it, but they're not going to get the most out of it. They're going to get the most.
Stephen didn't rip out scripture numbers. He was just, this is Jesus.
Right. Yeah. This is who Jesus is. This is the Jesus that I know. And he gave his testimony. Mm-hmm. That's how he shared the gospel. And you can know him too. Like, this is how all you have to do. Like, it's pretty simple.
Yep.
And so I think that just being ready to share your testimony with people is the best thing you can do. And something that's really helped me this year, I used to be scared to death to talk to people about my faith. And what's
Mr. Introvert over here.
Yeah, what's helped me is praying for boldness, asking God for boldness. It's nothing that I do. It's not my boldness. I'm a coward. I'm a coward without God. God gives me the boldness. And so if you lack that boldness, ask it of God. So that's kind of my final thought, man.
I like that. And, I didn't, I'm terrible with the passage too. I mean, we've talked about it multiple times, but Acts 4 verses 23 through 31, after, Peter was locked in jail, I think maybe John too, they released him and they said, hey, you can go, don't talk about Jesus anymore.
After they beat him.
Threw him in jail, they let him go. And what did the church do? They didn't pray for, stop the persecution. Don't take away our rights.
Straight back to the synagogues.
Don't silence me. Don't kick me off Facebook. What happened to Parler? Like, they didn't do that. What did they pray for? No, they prayed for boldness.
Right. And they went right back to the synagogue.
Right.
The very same day.
And they preached Jesus.
Right.
Loudly and boldly, and they prayed for that boldness.
Right.
So I think that's a good way to end it. And all about what do we need to do to refocus as the church is
focus on Jesus and
pray for boldness.
And pray for boldness. Yeah, I like it.
Time for Fun Facts with Fuller.
My dude. So I don't know why I ask you this anymore. But do you have a fun fact to end this wonderful episode that we said was going to be short, but it's not?
We're like, we think we do this about 25 minutes. We're at an hour. It's like, okay.
My bad, peoples. My bad. He got to wake up at 3 a.m. and it's already
3:30.
3:30. It's already 9.
It's 9 p.m. Yeah, and so I got a half-hour drive back to the house too. But that's all right.
Goodness. But my dude, so to end this beautiful conversation.
Wow, you squeaked a little.
I know I did. I stretched my back and it made me I'm stretching my back and my shoulder and it made me go. But do you have a fun fact for us to end this wonderful episode on?
I do have a fun fact.
Oh, give it to us. Talk about it. I'm done. Okay, I'm done.
RTC family and Mark, did you know a bolt of lightning contains enough energy to toast 100,000 slices of bread? If you consider that each bolt of lightning contains more than 5 billion joules of energy, which is a measurement of energy, then the average 1,000 watt 2-slice toaster could be powered for 84,000 minutes with just one strike. That's enough time to toast about 100,000 slices of bread, bagels, English muffins, or whatever you prefer.
And people live through lightning strikes.
They get toasted.
but people have walked away from being struck by lightning.
Yeah, I know. It's nuts.
But so moral of the story is you probably should still not stick a knife in a toaster.
Or stick an umbrella up in the air with a lightning storm. Or anything metal.
Probably not a good idea. The whole story with Ben Franklin and the kite and the key, was that real?
I have no
For some
idea.
reason, I just heard recently, I thought someone made that up.
It could be. I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe that'll be a fun fact on a different episode about the
or maybe our
kite.
Viewers can comment and let us know whether they think it's a real or not.
Please email me. I need to be educated sometimes because I just don't know. I don't know things.
We don't know everything.
No, but you know what I do know? I know that the people can reach out to us literally at any point.
Facebook,
Instagram. You can reach us still at Twitter.
We do have a Parler account.
We do.
We do. I don't know how much longer Parler is going to be around, but we do have a Parler account. It's a Real Talk Christian Podcast. You can reach us at Real Talk Christian Podcast at gmail.com. You can go to the website, realtalkchristianpodcast.com. You can also go to the merch store. As you see, I'm wearing the winter line.
You look good in the winter line, bro.
I bought my whole family something in the winter line.
This idea, you came up with the idea.
Well,
I just jumped on Photoshop. But you came up with the idea, but it looked good.
It's a good winter line.
And
next year, we'll have to start planning for a different winter line. So this is like a one-time
2020,
2021 winter line because the 21-22 season may be a little different. So jump online and check out the merch store.
Before it's too late.
You can get just about anything that your little heart desires.
I love it.
If you want the coffee mug, you have to get a hold of us directly, or if you're willing to buy some coffee, get a hold of us.
Hear that?
We don't charge
That's the sound of coffee.
We don't charge anything to really make profit. It's whatever the cost is to us.
It's just fun, man. We
sell
like
it
having
to you
RTC
for the
family.
same cost that it cost us, and so
and it's a really easy way to advertise Real Talk Christian Podcast for us.
So if you want to help us out and help us do a little advertising, get a hold of us.
We ain't gonna complain.
Yeah, not at all. So, you can give us a call at 574-400-5352 or shoot us a text or whatever you prefer. So
I absolutely love it. Hey, and just as a reminder, if you're still listening to us, Andy or Andy's son, email us with your contact information. We'll send you out a mini swag bag for both of you guys. But hey, until next time,
take it easy.